Hi, it's been a while. It's good to be here. So, question. Talk about the strength of more typically feminine characteristics that many deem as inherently weak. I find many women say they know their strength but don't feel it, and fight their real strengths while seeking superficial signs of strength. Okay, airplane mode. Here we go. I think this question leads to a universal subject, but I'm going to try to not speak and talk too long, so I might not dive into that, but I might mention it. I'm a woman who is mostly, my makeup is very feminine. Female energy is very predominant in me. And again, as always, I can only speak of my experiences. And I have had a heck of a time in the work field. I very much feel intuit into situation, and I have felt very uncomfortable many times in my life, being put in a place of leadership and yet feeling so inept, and having things to say and not saying them, having strong feelings toward a situation or a decision that was made and not speaking. So much so that I know it's part of what made me sick at times. And now my body, and I honor my body more and more, speaks very loud and clear. When I do not honor that sense, that female energy, that feminine way of going about things, I get ill. And it's interesting because I can't say I got ill because I didn't honor. I mean, I could, but I don't say, oh, I got ill because I didn't honor my intuitive knowing. People would look at me like, what are you talking about, right? And yet I think many of us do repress so much that way that we do get ourselves sick. Women in general, and again I'm generalizing, many men have a great amount, if we're going to quantify it, of feminine energy in them. And so even though I'm speaking as a woman, in a woman's body in this incarnation, I know that some women very much have that male energy in them, and that is real for them. So if that is real for you, you may want to, turn me off and move on, or perhaps there's still something you could learn from it, or be interesting to you. But there are women like that, and there are men that have the counterpart of that, very female in their ways. So let's not judge a book by its cover again. She's a woman, therefore she's like this, and he's a man, and therefore he's like this. And many of us have different levels and different bounds of that. But the question was very clear. So from a woman about that very situation in most women. And I know that I'm one of them, so that connects to me. I'm just starting now to honor that place in me and to see its strength and its wisdom. Because very often, for so long, unconsciously, or perhaps consciously, very often we say unconsciously, but we actually are very clear. It's not unconscious. I don't know why we say that. I know that I applied the word weakness to my feminine intuitive way of going about things, that it was weaker. And I know that the outside world has been telling us that for a very long time, that it does not have its place in the work field. The same way that we are being told that emotions don't have their places in the work field. And yet, so much ego and undealt with emotions are filling up boardrooms, business dinners and meetings. It is filled with ego and emotions, and it's not acknowledged. Everybody's pretending that it's not happening. It's always personal, even when it's business. It does not exist in my world. I have never personally witnessed that. And if you haven't dealt with your personal and your connection to business and emotions and personal, and been clear about it and therefore able to handle it in a way that makes sense in the business world, this is when I see the most chaos. When none of the individuals are acknowledging that truth as I see it, we are all human beings. And so pretending, no offense, it's not personal, pretending these things is still odd to me. But that's perhaps because, I talk from a feminine energy place. I feel that this is true, and I feel that if individual understood that business is filled with human beings, and that therefore you would acknowledge that feminine presence, that feminine way, and see it as a plus. I love the leadership and the male aspect of individuals. I appreciate it in a woman a great deal, and I appreciate it in a man. My husband is like that, and I love it. I love watching him be able to lead the way he leads. It's not perfect. Feminine energy is not perfect either. We're all going to make mistakes and learn from them, hopefully, and not repeat the same ones over and over again. Although if you look at history, it's not showing itself very brightly. But it is so. You can do that. So the feminine energy, to me, leads differently, speaks differently, uses a different language, has strategies that may differ from a male way of going about things. And it's unfortunate that it's not acknowledged, because I think the marriage of the two is where the universal power comes from. The most potent power would be to unite these two within oneself, and therefore see that reflected in how male and female could utilize these energies together as a team. And that leads me to the point of, you can't wait for the outside world to acknowledge it in you. You can't wait to get kudos from the outside world. And the feminine energy has also been reduced to, package in one sweep into the objectification of a woman. We are so objectified constantly. Almost everything we sell nowadays has got a young, sexually boosted woman selling it. Even the news is delivered now by, beautiful women, and it's being utilized and objectified in order to keep your attention. It's too bad. It's objectified, and it's deleting in one big swoop that feminine wisdom that even one's woman, if we objectify ourselves, if we continuously pretend that we are useful only in youth, while we're busy competing with other women and thinking more of our physical aspect than our internal gifts, it's too bad that we allow that. And I believe we allow that. It is challenging not to play that game. I see that. I am here. I live in this world. I get it. And yet, we cannot wait for the outside world to honor that. We have to realize that we also often have been conditioned, and I include myself in this speech, absolutely. We have been conditioned to undervalue that in oneself. So a woman leader does not have to lead like a man. Again, some of them do, and they're good at it because it is real and honest, and that balance, that male-female within them, is prominent in the male energy, and then it's their truth. It is real, and I honor that. And I actually, most of my girlfriends tend to be like that. Since I'm so full of feminine energy, I enjoy being with women that have a different balance than my own. So I appreciate it. But we have appreciated that way for thousands of years. It's okay now to pause and acknowledge that there's another way to lead at work and in the world. And it doesn't have to put down the male way. It doesn't have to be angry and attack. We don't have to do that. We simply need to sit back and acknowledge where and when we have witnessed and lived the fact that that intuitive way, that feminine way of utilizing our power, our leadership, our way of communicating, of dealing with a team. If we can pause and see where and how it served us, and if we can work that muscle, perhaps with our children, with our partner, with our friends, where we feel safer, but acknowledge for ourselves that it has its place and that we have to harness that gift. It's always up to an individual. It's never, you can't take that from someone else. So just now, at 50, there's so much happening for me at 50. I'm really loving it. There's a beauty to pausing and acknowledging its value. And I know that when I'm surrounded by men and I have to speak or something that is being said does not connect, it makes sense. Intellectually, I hear them, I get it, it makes sense. I don't buy it. I don't want to go in that direction. Something about it is just not okay. I know that's my intuitive feminine self. When I take a beat to appreciate that in me, and I don't dismiss it as, I just don't get it, I've never been good at that, nobody's going to listen to me, I won't be able to prove it, and therefore nobody's going to listen to me. Yes, all these things may be happening. They may not tell you, but they may be thinking it. But that's completely irrelevant, because if you pause and you acknowledge that it is not irrelevant, that something very wise is speaking to you, and then you don't pretend to speak it the way they would. You have the courage to speak it your way. But take your time and feel solid in it first. Because when I don't take the time to feel solid in it first, I'm terrible when I say it out loud. And it doesn't work. But once I pause and I breathe in that other way of seeing, viewing, analyzing a situation, once I give myself kudo, once I say, no, it has its place, and then I speak, I tend to speak with more clarity, with more strength, and I tend to be heard more often. So it's not up to anybody else, and it's not anybody's fault. Yes, we are in a world that has undervalued that and has utilized the feminine form much more than the feminine wisdom. But I see the feminine wisdom as the canvas upon which things are painted on. And the canvas is therefore very important. So utilize that canvas, be painted on. Allow that very important tool to take its place. It is needed very, very much nowadays. Look around, look at history, and look at what's happening right now. The knowing that divine built us that way. for a reason, and that as it requires its balance in the male and female body internally, acknowledging both within oneself, again, might transpose itself into the world where this teamwork, this synergy that is so powerful. We can see that in the male-female aspect of raising a child. It will be so useful in the work field and in the world. It relates to all the opposite, how we need to create opposites. When the balance of each and knowing when to apply pressure here or not is what's so important to understand and revalue. We are not useful only when we are young and fresh. We are capable of so much more, and we need to know that. We need to really, really know that. Utilize these gifts in a safe way if you need practice. See when it uses you in such a beautiful way. See when it had value. Write it down. Remember it, so that when it's in a scary time, when you are afraid of the environment you're in, that you will not be heard, remember all the other times where it served you. So take a chance. Be courageous. Be a woman. Lead as a woman would, if that is true for you. Try. Give it a shot. I am, and it feels good. It doesn't always mean that I'm being heard. It doesn't always mean that they agree with me, but it agrees with me. It feels good. It's like an in-breath. It feels very good. I hope this worked, this resonated with you. I hope somehow I talked and answered the question. It's a big subject, and it affects all of us. And I welcome any comment you would have upon it. Be well.